The ever-growing Democratic field for governor grew again last week when Madison Mayor Paul Soglin officially joined the race. Soglin has been Madison's mayor several times since his first election back in 1973. If elected governor, he said he would prioritize investments in roads, schools, and high-speed internet. He'd like to follow the path of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who won Wisconsin's 2016 Democratic primary by energizing grassroots activists and young people. We are joined now by Mayor Paul Soglin. Mayor, it's good to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So the last time we talked to you was over the summer, and at that time you said you were seriously thinking about getting in, and you talked about maybe after Labor Day. But here we are, it's January. Was there any moment of hesitation for you? Or
there really wasn't, but as I discussed it with friends and advisors, they were saying, look, it is going to be a long, long campaign. And if you're looking at 15, 16 months, just imagine what's going to happen by the time you get through August. Wait, as we did, 11 months is still a long time.
So you said also back then that you thought potentially you could raise $15 to $20 million. Is that still possible with small donations given the number of candidates who are already out there?
I'm not sure it's going to be small donations. I'm not Mike McCabe. I'm not some of the others.
Okay, so yeah.
But I will be focused on a goal of $20 million, which I think a Democrat can be competitive statewide. And what we've got to do, obviously, is generate the largest base and large turnouts, large pluralities in Milwaukee and Dane County. Then we have to run even in the other urban areas of the state. And then we'll be really respectable in the Milwaukee suburbs and in the northern, more rural areas of the state.
I noticed the governor has been jabbing you on a number of occasions, not just since your announcement, even before your announcement. What do you make of that?
Well, obviously he's concerned, and my belief is that there's sort of two issues in what he's doing. One is what he's conscious about, which is energizing his base and using the attacks on me to raise his own money. I mean, that's what they're doing. It's on their website, and they're using this to raise money for his campaign. The second part of it is, I think, a miscalculation, which he's raising issues. He's terribly vulnerable on public safety and crime. He's very vulnerable on his record in regards to the economy. So we'll see how this plays out over the next year.
So he says that crime went up under Paul Soglin. That was one of his tweets. He said businesses are leaving Madison under Paul Soglin. Were you surprised by that?
Not at all. I mean, what he's doing is pointing to very small statistical aberrations. Yes, we had 11 homicides through the first week of August last year. That is a record over 10. We had one more homicide. Since the first week of August through today, we have not had a single homicide. We've implemented some changes that we've been working on the last several years. There are things that you can do to increase public safety. We're demonstrating that, and I think he's got a lot to answer for when we look at the total crime picture in Wisconsin, which when compared to other U.S. states has not improved the way it should have the last half a dozen years, and there are things a governor can do about it.
Mayor, one of the things you've been talking about is the performance of the Madison economy, and you've been citing that as an example of the kind of leadership you could bring. But skeptics might say, how much of that is really the mayor's doing? Epic in Verona has created thousands of jobs, which in part have helped transform Madison. That you've got the UW there, you have the business of government. That really, the mayor, that you haven't had all that much to do with the success of Madison.
Back in the 1970s, which is when Epic was first founded, I had read some literature, and that literature is just reinforced decade after decade after decade. We now see it in the work of the Kauffman Foundation, which is probably the premier organization on entrepreneurship and capitalism. One, you don't get into a battle with other communities and other states with high tax incentives designed to lure businesses. If you want to grow an economy, you nurture local entrepreneurs. You create the environment that they want. And we adopted that. My first time around as mayor, I didn't even know what Judy Faulkner was working on that became
Head of
Epic Systems. Epic Systems. But today, we just made an arrangement with Exact Sciences on a TIF. They are giving us in this jobs TIF a guarantee. $15 an hour minimum wage, health insurance, retirement benefits for everyone. They have signed an agreement to work with the local urban league and to go through training and development programs and to particularly work with the neighborhood on which the new office building is going to be located. We did it, if you do it on a per job basis, we're talking like $6,000 per job. That's up to a mayor to work that kind of arrangement and to create that environment where someone like a Judy Faulkner, who's repeated it over and over again, Madison is her base, her home, they're never leaving.
You've talked about doing a sort of a supper club campaign, so that means visiting lots of places around Wisconsin, listening to people. But how do you convince people in places like Kewaunee or Tomahawk or Merrill that you, as the mayor of arguably the most liberal city in Wisconsin, that you get their concerns, that you understand what's on their minds? How do you do that? How do you convince them of that?
First is you show up. You show up and you show that you're prepared to listen. And I have been going to supper clubs around Wisconsin over the last year and a half, and I've done that. And the people are saying things that are in common to all of us. They want great schools. They don't want to hear their recent 18, 19-year-old graduate turning to their parents and saying, "This place sucks. I'm leaving and I'm not coming back." Wisconsin's road system was built in a public-private partnership, incentivized by the need to serve the dairy industry and get milk, fresh milk, to market. It's gone into neglect. We see it all over the state, and of course, with all the chaos of the last 2 years on a highway and transportation budget, we now see dozens of projects around the state are now canceled so that we can refunnel the money into Foxconn. This is what people are concerned about.
Mayor Paul Soglin is running for governor as one of the Democratic candidates. Thanks very much for being with us today. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
My interview with Mayor Soglin continues now on our website, where I'm asking him about his visits to Cuba and giving the keys of the city to Fidel Castro. That's on the Upfront section of WISN.com. Coming up next on Upfront, local leaders preparing for Foxconn by looking around the country.